Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hash Rate. My guest today is Brendan Playford of Gopher, Subnet 42. Hello, Brendan. How you doing?
I'm great, Mark. How are you doing this morning? Pleasure to be here.
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's morning for both of us, as we were discussing, because I'm in Los Angeles and you're in San Francisco. So thankfully we're on the same time schedule, not like, Dubai crazy time like some hash rates are. So yeah.
Exactly. Very civil time of the day.
Yeah. So let's talk about Gopher Subnet 42. I'll admit I've seen part of a podcast of what you're doing, and I know that you used to be called Massa, and this is I think this is a new pivot. It's not just a rebrand. So when I hand it over to you, tell us, what are you doing with Subnet 42?
Yeah, and I think it was on Siam's revenue search that might have been a couple of weeks ago. Subnet 42. We launched maybe around a year and a while ago. So we've actually had the slot for some time. The number also indicates that it's one of the kind of older subnets before we went from 64 to 128. And we launched as a data scraping subnet originally. So you could think of us under the guise of Massa. We're a data scraping subnet looking to do something like adjacent to what Subnet 13 is doing, Dataverse, but really with a focus less on pre-training or model training, but more on providing context through RAG and I would say tool configuration in LLMs. So when you're having chain of thought and things like this, how would you be able to add additional context into tools? Like maybe you want to have like a website tool or a Reddit tool that allows the agent to go out and fetch data specifically in its context. We were really focused on that. The 256 miners on the subnet, all running different sets of code for scraping the likes of X, Reddit, TikTok, so on and so forth. And as we went through the kind of early product market fit discovery cycle, we've slowly got to where we are today, which is a complete rebrand, reposition as Gopher, and a real refocus on where we're finding a huge amount of traction. We can go through, and hopefully I can share screen to show some things as we kind of go through this, do some demos, and just kind of give some insight into what we're doing in terms of traction, revenue, so on and so forth. I think it's some interesting stuff we can show people. But around August, we were, taking a step back. Like, it's actually quite difficult to differentiate yourself if you're in the data space, especially in the AI data space. It kind of, you blur into this amorphous blob of like data scraping, data for LMs, pre-training, model training, open source data kind of positioning. And it doesn't really mean a lot to everyone. So we realized this. We saw that the traction we were getting was very much verticalized in one specific segment of the market that we were going to market in. And that caused us to really take a step back and think about how we repositioned as Gopher, as a new brand, clearly explaining and telling a story for the value we provide to users. And that's an ongoing process. Even today and this week, we're doing more to sharpen that, and we can talk a little bit more about that. And where we've landed is...
I just want to clarify this just a little bit, because I just want to make sure everybody, kids in the back are following, right? So, and I am familiar with that other subnet, which shall not be mentioned because I don't like to mention other people's subnets. There is another subnet that's doing data scraping. And basically you can go to their site and there is a big, like, sort of Walmart of pre-scraped packages on specific topics, like New York mayoral race. Like, what is the sentiment on that, right? All kinds of things like that. And you can initiate your own scrape and basically be like, I want this. And it will go out and scrape Reddit, X, and I think YouTube now. And that's it. So are you doing a similar thing, or are you doing a different thing? I'm a little unclear on sort of how you fit in the universe there.
Yeah, as Massa, similar and adjacent. Similar in as much as scraping and fetching data on demand. And we can give a quick demo of that in a bit when we get to the right stage, so as people can sort of see and use it. It's free and open. It's a very, very similar kind of platform, or you can sign up and buy credits. Slightly more expansive data sources, TikTok, LinkedIn. You can essentially go out and scrape like consumer customer lists if you want, or contact lists for your CRM with our LinkedIn scraper. So maybe I want data scientists in San Francisco or LA or London or wherever. You can use our product to do that right now for free. So pretty extensive scrapers, including TikTok. And the TikTok one is speech to text. So maybe I want to search for all of the TikToks on Tao today. and then extract like the top 50 highest performing ones. I can then use the text to go into RAG, or I can use it to do certain analysis on to create content that may perform highly based on the trend of today. And as you'll see, like we use this specifically in a product that we showcase that shows like sentiment and trends around topics in cryptocurrency, like assets, Bitcoin, Tau, whatever. We also have like a sentiment analyzer, so you can go in and you can select multiple data sources and ask a question like, what are people talking about what are people saying about BitTensor today? What are people saying about Bitcoin today? And it will come back and it will give you almost like a memo of what is going on today, a bit of a kind of cheat sheet or summary of what is happening in the space. And I did demo this on Siam's call. It takes about 30 seconds to run the query.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And the main differentiator here is we took a different approach to data scraping. We don't encourage competition between data sets necessarily. We encourage competition between throughput and capacity. And we do it by enforcing the code that miners run using trusted execution environments. So we have our own complete ground up stack using a framework called Ego in Go. We are Gophers at heart, and we code in Go. And Ego lets us build a lightweight trusted execution environment in which miners deploy the trusted execution code in an enclave, and it essentially ensures that all of the data that is scraped remains untampered from the source at which it's scraped from, right the way through to the point at which you consume it. And we're encouraging competition with infrastructure and scalability because of the throughput we need for our customers, as opposed to diversity in data sets, because ultimately it's our customers who choose what data they want, and they want a high SLA and high kind of trustworthiness of the data, which is why we use trusted execution environments and secure enclaves to do that.
Well, that is unique because as far as I know, the other guys don't use a TEE in the same way you are. So you guarantee that the data that is scraped has not been tampered with, and that the miners are not just filling it up with a bunch of bullshit to try to get coins.
Yeah.
Because that would be the incentive, right?
Yeah.
If you were a bad actor, right? You'd be like, make a bunch of stuff up, right? So,
exactly.
So it can't happen because you have to run your miner, which is a T, so that nobody can mess with it. And then also you have LinkedIn and TikTok, which is unique. Nobody else has that. That is awesome.
We do.
And that is extremely valuable. So that's a great differentiator, both of them.
And in the background, it's not live to miners yet. We have financial data streams where we cover 100,000 assets, stocks, cryptos, bonds, any instrument that you would find on TradingView. So if you make a search for gold on TradingView, you'll also be able to get that data. And again, we'll show a product that is using this in its beta or alpha form, and that will be rolling out to miners soon, is the best I can say.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, so where I just wanted to clarify, you talked a little bit about the nature of the competition that you set up for your miners, the incentive mechanism. And I've promised Const I will talk more about incentive mechanisms on hash rate. So could you just give us a little brief overview of how the competition works and what the incentive mechanism that you've set up basically is?
Yeah. So for every data type you can see on here, there is a level of difficulty or technical capability that you as a miner have to provision a high availability set of infrastructure to run one of these services effectively. So as when someone comes and uses the product, let me just slightly change some screen sizing here. It returns, pretty quickly. So we're just going to do a response for BitTensor. We're going to ask for 25 of the latest tweets. This is going out and it's going to return quite quickly. Now for Twitter data, as compared to TikTok data, for example, where TikTok requires a certain level of computation to get the result to format correctly, or indeed web summarization, which I'll show you in a minute, or Twitter summarization, They all use different amounts of compute. So for each kind of type of data you're returning as a miner, there is a heavier weight because the difficulty of getting the data or the cost of getting the data is higher. And we actually reflect that in the pricing model that we have for our product, because the more difficult the product is, or the more difficult the data is to extract or acquire, the more credits you pay as a user. And it then flows through to the miners as such as well. It may also be that running infrastructure for Twitter to, return a scrape in maybe like seconds, like it did for me just there, in order for a miner to be able to perform that highly, they have to have very sophisticated infrastructure. So the throughput of tweets and your error rate as a miner influences the way you'll be selected by the network, and therefore the amount of rewards and emissions you'll earn. So this drives a competition that makes miners available for the highest value data in terms of what is the most rich data that has the highest value to the end user, and how do we provision enough supply to fulfill demand. And that's what we're really focused on here. We're not focused on diversity of data, like we said again. We're really focused on providing an enterprise-grade service to the customers we're using, and then for the particular use case we're seeing really high traction on, you'll understand a little bit more as to why the integrity of the data is really, really important.
So would it be fair to say that the competition for the miners is you have to have a beefy enough rig, and you test, that is the test, is beefiness of rig, and that boils down to throughput and ability to scrape fast, basically. So that's computation and throughput. So that's what and whoever sort of has the beefiest machines are going to tend to win your competition the most and get the most rewards from the blockchain in terms of emissions.
Yes, that's correct. And the reason why that is as a scraper, you're constantly playing a little bit of cat and mouse with your source. And in order to maintain consistent uptime, there is a lot of infrastructure overhead. So you'll find that the miners we have on the network are highly professionalized, and they are, how would I put this? They're incentivized to keep their infrastructure always on when they're playing this game of cat and mouse with scraping. And often, infrastructure gets blocked or barred. And in order to be a miner that's effective, you need to have extremely resilient systems to continue scraping at a high capacity for the network.
Okay, so let me try to characterize that.
That applies to any scraping.
Yeah, so let me try to characterize that. It's perfectly legal to scrape. I've actually dug into this. As long as a website is publicly available, anybody can come by and scrape it. There's nothing illegal there. However, the person who owns the website doesn't want you scraping, right? So they're always like trying to defend themselves and trying to box you out. So there's this arms race that's always going on between the scrapers and the scrapees. And the scrapees are always putting new locks on the front door. So that's basically what you're talking about, right? That's pretty much that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Whether it be Cloudflare, who now allows you to opt in to monetize the scraping on your website, or the developer, shout out to Taostats. They are hard to scrape, for example, as an example of a website that is hard to scrape. They use quite sophisticated Cloudflare turnstiling. Which is interesting.
Okay, very interesting. So let's. So you got a little demo here. Let's.
Yeah. So I just pulled some results from X. I've actually got to just sign into an account here, because you get a certain number of scrapes as a public user, but because it's a shared interface, it can sometimes rate limit. Now, I have Giga credits here because I'm an admin. So
okay,
what
so
I
now
want to show you is,
where did these credits come from? You bought them with fiat, like with a credit card?
Yeah. So you can go through, you can add credits with a tier here. You can start off on our starter packet or go all the way up to enterprise, and you can sign up and buy credits through the platform. And those revenues are currently being allocated to alpha token holder governance. We can talk a little bit more about that later. I touched on it with revenue search, a week or so ago. And the one that's kind of interesting here is the data insights. What are the trends? Bit tensor today. And what happens here is, is that the miner will grab the search term that I put in, use an LLM to extract the most relevant terms. It'll then use a set of tools to essentially go out and scrape from the network that are injected into the LLM with optimized search query. So the LLM can actually search for you on X, so it can spend time searching through X to find your result. And once it's found, like, I don't know, the best tweets by views or the best tweets by engagement, it will then use those to create a summary about what it's observing in the space. And you can do this with X, you can do it with Reddit, and you can do it through our API as well. So these are kind of public-facing products. We find that a lot of just normal users will use the search tools here. You can also, like, if I want to search for BitTensor TikToks, I can search and retrieve the 10 highest trending TikToks, and you'll see them. TikTok takes a little bit longer because it's a bit more of a nuanced API. And then you can extract the speech-to-text content from those top 10.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
TikTok videos.
I would love. Yeah. I'm going to go use this for sure, because I'm always like, I wonder what's going on TikTok, but there's no, like, as far as I know, no front door to TikTok. You can search it, but it's not the same as sort of doing it this way, right? So
it's not, no. And again, this is an example of the hard to extract data that has more value. And you'll see, like, right now miners are competing to get the job back as quickly as possible. And we should come back to this probably in a minute. You'll see the job returned. TikTok can take a little bit longer, but it does process in the end. TikTok's quite a robust platform. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, got it. So so I could do this with LinkedIn too, right? So if I wanted to sort of go over to LinkedIn and do the sense, that is amazing.
Yes.
And how real time is this? Like, if somebody posted something 30 seconds ago, will this know about it? Like, what's the sort of lag time? Yeah. Oh, wow.
There's zero lag time. Yeah. So these are actual tweets. We also have this deep archive feature where every bit of content that ever flows through the subnet gets archived into a huge vector store. And as a user, you can include that in your search. So you can add on this sort of similarity query that will go out and fetch other data that might have been scraped in the last 24 hours or may have been scraped like a week ago or whatever, to enrich the search. And again, all this is available from our public endpoints as well. But yeah, LinkedIn, you can do the same thing. Data scientist. Yep. Sorry, I can code, but I'm a little bit dyslexic. And yeah, you could then take one step further from here and scrape the. You can find the JSON, so you can extract all of the content from the images, and then also take it one step further in the API and get the entire transcript for these 10 TikToks, for example.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so who is using this stuff right now? Like, who are kind of the customers? What do they look like?
Yeah, so it's a lot of AI developers, either through direct go-to-market, where we're onboarding developers directly. They could be in the Web2 ecosystem, or we do a lot of distribution through crikey, not Open Router, through Hugging Face. Hugging Face, Hugging Face is a really big go-to-market channel for us. Yeah, we make sets of we make data sets available on Hugging Face, and that's a really great acquisition channel for us, because people find the data sets like you mentioned earlier, like the mayoral election kind of content. That's good SEO juice in that for people that are looking for interesting stuff. That's your kind of top of funnel hook. And then you'll pull people further into the funnel by getting through organic queries, and then they'll ultimately convert into a user. So we have quite a strong self-service funnel. And a lot of those are, AI developers that are building agents typically. And I'll kind of demo sort of like one of our own products, because not only do we do the back end, we kind of now verticalizing more. I keep hinting at this into a financial prediction kind of use case, because when you look at data scraping, it's pretty amorphous, and to be $1 billion entity, you need to have like a niche you really nail, and that's what we're really focused on doing and becoming as well.
Oh, interesting. So you think finance is your niche that you're going to really, really nail?
Yes, absolutely. And I can show you more about the product we've built on top of this. Again, using those financial data feeds. So I can dive in. So we have this new product that has been out for around, let's have a look, about a month. We launched it around a month ago. This was born out of a necessity for me to solve one of my own problems. I've been in crypto for 13 years. I've been here since 2013. I am an amateur trader, and I've always liked and enjoyed trading, but realized that trading and keeping track of everything that we consume on a daily basis in the Web3 space is beyond a full-time role, especially when you're a founder. And I found myself in maybe like June or July copy and pasting trading view charts into one of the GPT platforms. And then chatting to the AI about the market. I take screenshots of liquidation levels. I take screenshots of news about ETFs. I take screenshots from FedWatch and like copy paste in. And I was like, why the hell am I not using our tool? So why don't I use the web scraper and social feeds and all these other things to basically bring the data together and then inject it into an LLM using different LLM tools, which I then built and started using myself. And I found that it was able to do technical analysis and price forecasting on crypto assets and other assets to a shockingly high degree of accuracy. I mentioned some of the stats to Siam. We see about a 65% win rate most of the time on people that are using the platform from a trading perspective, with very well managed risk reward. So to really kind of back up, I started using our data scrapers data feeds to provide context to an LLM so as I could better understand the macro view of the market and then the micro view of an asset so I could place a trade or take a view on what's happening. Maybe that was BitTensor, Tau, maybe that was Bitcoin, maybe it was ETH, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It could be gold. And what it did was it created a really rigid framework for me to make better decisions and be a better trader. And what I did, I was using this internally for about the first 2 months. And I started sharing it with people. So I started sharing it with people around the beginning of October here. I shared it to my community of friends, and then it went viral on the 10th of October, where the model was able to predict that huge liquidation event that we saw on the 10th of October and the price and everything. And a lot of people that were using it made relatively good wins or didn't lose money in liquidation because of the accuracy of this model. And it's just grown exponentially over the last 30 days. And we have, like you can see, 62,000 users signed up, 26,000 returning users we have with a really high retention rate. And I will show you.
Can I just ask a question because I'm a little bit unclear. So where do I, if I want to use this, where do I go? Is this like Gopher, your main website? I don't know. I can't see what the URL is. Okay. It's
gotrader.gopher-ai.com. And the data scraper is just data dot, the same one. And I can share those with you as well. Here we go. Our LinkedIn search.
Oh, wow.
For us as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And you can see that these are actual real folks when this loads. There we go. And again, you can then export all this data and do it. The primary functionality is on the API, but the front end kind of gives you a really good idea of what you can get and how you can refine searches. And then you can, build lists and things like that with it. And this is kind of like from the combined products, this is all revenue flowing into the platform. We use Coinbase payments for our payment interface, and these are actual credits that are coming through and flowing through into the platform on the database. So I think we have about 1,000 to 1,500 paying customers right now. And it's small but meaningful revenue right now that is going to continue to grow exponentially. We're not really focused on heavy monetization right now because we want to scale this to 100,000, 500,000 users.
Yeah.
And our highest value markets like the US, the UK, Germany, and like Hong Kong kind of regions typically for users. And this is where we've started finding really crazy traction. And I'll wrap up. You can do advanced analysis, you can do discovery, and then you can do sentiment analysis. And the sentiment analysis here pulls from our data scrapers and gives you a real-time sentiment for what is going on in the markets. And we have auto trading coming as well. That auto trading will use all of the data feeds so that you can create an agent strategy on Gopher and trade to a very, very high performance. So this is launching Thursday of this week, where people will be able to kind of track and see what's happening. And this is our kind of approach to building a really strong fundamental product on the back end using really great technology, and then demonstrating our go-to-market and going to market with 3 key products, which is the data scrapers, the AI trading engine, which is our way of verticalizing around financial markets, especially in crypto. And then we'll be launching, we spoke about this briefly with Simon, a fund that goes on the back of these trading strategies, because right now performance is so high.
What is this like? What is this like trading subnets? That's what everyone's thinking right now. Have you applied it to
That's
Subnet
a good
yet?
question. We probably could. I wonder if who's listed on MEXC? That's a good question.
Yeah, Hippias is on MEXC.
Really?
So
Let's see if we can find them. If they're on TradingView, yeah, Subnet 75. Here we go. If they're on TradingView, we can see what we can talk about. I don't know if I want to do this.
I mean, it's just what the computer says. It's not like it's not a comment on Hippias. I'm very bullish on Hippias, but
the thing that is
whatever.
Yeah, so this is purely looking at price action. With a release in this week, you'll be able to add, as we call them, external or exogenous data sources, one of which could be the tweet stream from Hippias, so as you can understand like what the revenue flows are, or maybe there's like another metric that would be really valuable in terms of providing your macro level view. You got to think this is thinking like a human. Like, my first step is to understand like what is the kind of macro picture. Then I want to kind of drill down into like price action, and maybe I want to take another step into something else. So what this is doing right now is going out to this subset of miners that are running beta code for pricing feeds. It's bringing back the 4-hour, the 1 day, and the 1 week candlestick data for this asset. And it is then passing that into an LLM. We're using a Quen model here, which can be made available through Shoots or I think others if they have them deployed on OpenRouter. So we use OpenRouter typically as our integration point. And it will then give you a trade setup. And what it's saying here is like you should wait before entering. And if you could short it, it's likely a short setup here. But this is basing it purely on the current price action, which at the moment is in a downtrend. And that's objectively what's going on here. But you could then add in additional macro factors. And for example, we could add sentiment analysis here around every single subnet. It's actually a good idea. Like, maybe we should do that. We should have sentiment for all subnets. Has anyone else I don't know if anyone else has built that, or is that
I don't know if they've. I mean, if you go to Tau.app, I'm pretty sure they do have sentiment analysis for all, basically the greed factor thing for all subnets. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do have it for each individual subnet as well. They got a lot of stuff on Tau.app for sure. So
yeah. And we only released this last week, so this is very
this is
very
a lot
new,
of
very fresh.
This is a lot of stuff, dude. There's way more going on here than I had guessed. So I'm glad you're coming on podcasts and showing people this stuff, because I think most of us just didn't know this little world existed yet. So and you also, I want to go back to the revenue for just a second. You said something, I believe, on Siam's podcast, because I took a note. You said you had $1 million in annual revenue and 77,000 customers. Did I get that right? Because I think what you just said was different. So how do I reconcile those two numbers?
Yeah, 77,000 end users. That's across the trading app and the data application, of which paying are about 1,500, I think, right now.
Yeah.
And annualized revenue is around that million level. Yeah.
Okay, so the numbers do line up. Okay, got it. So that's
1,000. Just to sort of differentiate like who's paying and who's like a freemium user, I would say.
Got it. So 77,000 users. Got it. Now I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of which 62 are on the trading app and the rest are on the data app.
Okay.
We can take a look, actually. We can have a look to see what the actual numbers are. Let's have a look. Massa app, Gopher testnet. Which instance is this? I think it's still named Massa in 20,000 users. Yeah, I think this is the right instance for the data app. I should know, but this is marketing's domain. But yeah, it's around 72,000 active unique users across both products.
Wow, very nice. And then and before you go on, also I just want to get to the token, the actual Subnet 42 token. Do you have any sort of tokenomics or plan for driving revenue into the Subnet token, or is that still to be determined at this time?
Yeah, so I think we've suffered a little bit of a couple of things which we're guilty of. One, we're always, as you can see, very focused on building. Like our goal here is to build something really meaningful, as opposed to, I don't know. You have to play the game as a founder, which is demonstrate. We wanted to demonstrate what we could do when we found we had product market fit, and very grateful for you kind of having me on this today to be able to do that and giving me the opportunity to do that. But we've definitely had some controversy because we started off with a dual token model, and we will continue to have a dual token model, which has never really, I think, in the community at large's minds made sense after the transition to detail. And we talked a fair amount about this with Siam. So we have what was the Massa token over here that still exists. That has got a home with our existing investors. It's what investors invested in 3 years ago. That is transitioning to a layer 1 token for Gopher. I'm not here to show that. So that's on one side, and that's a disclosure. We have a second token, and we always have done this. This came way before we're part of the ecosystem. And now we have Alpha token, and it's our job as an organization to really understand how those two universes align and how we can bring the most value to both sets of users in each ecosystem. We have 256 miners who are very focused on providing value on BitTensor. And as we spoke on Revenue Search, they have ultimately got the product where it is today. And when you use the product, those are the miners that are fulfilling requests. So the way that we look at this is on our protocol that we have outside of BitTensor, we have different layers of applications in which each of those provide different value to the Gopher ecosystem. It's very clear today that miners are adding very clear value to the Gopher ecosystem through the data streams part of things. It may well be in the future there's another component of the Gopher ecosystem that maybe doesn't exist on BitTensor that derives value elsewhere. So the way that we're looking at this is we want to function as an organization that allows for the participants in each area of the ecosystem that provides value to vote essentially on where value should go. Very similar to the way in which we see, detail and before detail emissions governed by all participants. Those parts of the network that provide most value get the majority of the value back from the network as perceived by its participants, or now with detail as perceived by the market, quote unquote. So for us, we're looking to create a treasury reserve, which we're constantly adding to, that is derived from revenues through which the participants of each part of the ecosystem will be able to vote on how that's used. If it's to fund operations and there's a proposal to fund more operations or to buy back and burn tokens, and that's what the majority of governance says, that's the approach we'd like to take. And I sometimes feel that's a bit of a cop-out. I'm not sitting here beating the drum like we're going to buy back everything, because I think as an early stage startup, you've got to be pragmatic. Like if we're a Series A or a seed stage company, would we be buying back our stock today? We would not. If we're a publicly listed company and we've got generating huge revenues, would we be buying back stock? Probably. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is the right stage for us to be doing each activity? And what's important today is that we grow this thing to be $1 billion entity. And that's a long-term mindset, which I think building treasury and managing treasury effectively has more long-term value than the potential for just saying you're going to commit to buying back and doing it because maybe that's what the community wants to hear, when fundamentally that might not be best for your growth. Like,
yeah, I agree. I totally hear that, and I
just being really
ding you on that.
Pragmatic.
And I appreciate the honesty too, because like some people try to weasel around like when I ask like a question like that, and I'd rather you just tell me like, yeah, we don't know yet. We're still figuring it out.
We don't know.
We're focused on product and revenue, and just and maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong, but that's what we're doing. And it's best to focus on something. And product and revenue feel like good things to focus on, which I would agree with. I don't know what the right answer is yet with the correct design for a subnet token. Nobody does. Like, there's a lot of theories on this, but like we don't have the model cracked yet. For the formula that is best for subnet tokens. There's many schools of thought on this, by the way. I ask different people, I get very different answers from very different people, right? So some people are like, it's okay that it's a meme coin for a research project, right? We're trying to create artificial general intelligence. Let's say you're Hone, right? So the answer for Hone is, well, we're doing AGI. So if you believe in that, then buy our subnet tokens, right? How are we going to make money? We don't know. But if we crack AGI, it'll be very big, and that subnet token will suddenly be worth a lot of money, probably, right? Like that's sort of the bet, and maybe they're right. Like we just don't know, right? And I see this in Templar, decentralized, Colossus is another very big vision, where if they do crack that, holy shit, that indeed will be incredibly useful and very big, and Earth will use that to train its frontier models, maybe, right? Like instead of Elon's Colossus, maybe Templar will be bigger, right? Because it's decentralized. I mean, the internet is bigger than AOL, right? Like there are reasons for thinking this is a real thing, right? So that's sort of one school of thought. Another school of thought is Hippias, which is like we've got this contraption set up where we are deterministically driving value into the Hippias subnet token based on the revenue and the usage of the Hippias storage subnet. And you have to stake to mine. So there's all kinds of mechanisms that are continuously driving buy pressure, right? So that's the other side of the argument. We don't know which one's the best idea just yet. So
no, and I fell in love with Bittensor 18 months ago, whenever it was, because it truly broke the mold of how you can use incentives to drive an optimal outcome. Like, how can you align a group of what are honestly chaotic and disconnected actors and bring that together in some kind of order to achieve an outcome that is behind some kind of North Star. And like for us, that is real-time data that you can trust from the point at which it was sourced. We're not trying to prove that what is published on TikTok is true. That's not what our value proposition here is. That the data you're getting is you can rely on and depend on. For mission critical stuff, like a response that a user gets, like the platform that you're getting from, I think it's their responsibility to underwrite truth to a certain extent, and that's a different philosophical conversation I'm kind of opening myself up to. But this notion of being able to use incentives to align people around a problem is incredibly powerful. And what I see now in detail is this, there is a need to align people around like the value accrual to tau, because what I've thought is missing for a while is the link between subnets and the value they're creating, and then the underlying asset tau. The link between those two pieces are what I've been missing. And even with the latest release this week, which is, looking to create more, like lower the velocity of tau.
You're talking about detail. You're talking about net tau flow. That's the release.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like that's incentivizing the flow of more tau to be locked into subnets in the pools. Now, what is that doing fundamentally to the economics of tau? You're slowing the velocity of tau, which means there is less flowing. Therefore, the per unit value, theoretically, if you're looking at the velocity of money kind of like fundamentals, if you believe in that, the value should go up. I still think there's a missing piece where we're not necessarily paying rent for subnets. Like, I would like to see more of a link like there is on Ethereum, where in order to use block space, you have to pay gas. You need tau to pay gas for doing transactions, but I think there's a missing piece of, as my subnet gets more successful and it maybe is decoupled from revenue, there is still a way of driving value back to tau, but I don't have an answer for that either. I just think there is an opportunity there to unlock some kind of link between the two, where it's not just about locking supply, because if we look honestly at the entire token space, you can see token launches that have a lot of supply locked, where that doesn't necessarily reflect in an underwriting of value of the asset in its underlying sense. And for that really to manifest and sort of get tau to the position it should be, everyone feels like tau should be higher in the places, because I think for a lot of people outside the ecosystem, the idea of what gives tau value is still like a missing link. And we need to ascribe the value that's being driven by all these massively impactful subnets and how that drives value of the underlying, which is the tau asset, other than the fact that I'm a user to register a subnet. And then, we need tau inflows to represent the value of a subnet as measured by, speculative value, because we're putting money into subnets with tau, and then also like buybacks or revenue. I think it's simple, but also for a lot of people outside the ecosystem, they prefer some of the things that you're describing, which are, what's the mimetic value of this idea and concept, which, Doge has proven over the last 14 years or 13 years that has crazy staying power.
Yeah, the mimetic. Just if we're gonna go here, if you think about what is the stock, right? Tesla, the stock, right? It's really just a meme coin for Tesla, the company, right? It's not. There is nothing deterministically driving the value of Tesla, the stock, based on the revenue, like there is with Hippias. Hippias is a very direct connection, right?
Absolutely.
There is no direct connection. It's just, the revenue's gone up, so therefore the stock should be worth more, right? It is purely mimetic, and it's an Elon meme coin in a way too, right? So,
and even that decouples, right? You as an investor know, like, revenue multiples in public markets are so decoupled from reality that really, where do we end up going with that anyway?
Right. So it's already like these things are already meme coins, really, right? In a lot of ways. And, I think back in the olden days, like when stocks were new, like you own stocks because like you go to dividends on your railroads, right? But like nobody gets fucking dividends these days, right? Like there are some, but not really. It's not the primary use case of stocks, right? You speculate on the price. That's why you buy a stock, because it's a meme coin.
Exactly.
So like, is it okay that we just admit that these things are meme coins for subnets? And it's possible that is a correct answer. As you pointed out, Doge and other things have shown that that has been a right answer for some things, right? Some classes of things. And if Tesla is just a meme coin anyway, then maybe it's not so bad, right? So I don't think we know the answer to this just yet. So
but we can see like the overall thought process behind where is tau and BitTensor trying to go is. The incentive alignment around tau is to reduce the free supply and put it into the highest value subnets is at least my personal interpretation.
That is correct. I agree. But that's like Bitcoin though, right? Like Bitcoin is hodl, right? Like that's the motto, right?
Exactly.
Put it in a ledger. Don't look at it for 10 years, right? Or whatever, right? And that has worked. Like the coin that's worked the best has been Bitcoin. And so this is the plan for Bitcoin, and BitTensor apes Bitcoin in many key ways, right? So I hear what you're saying. You're like, there should be a gas-like dynamic that's more Ethereum or Solana-like, but I'm not so sure that that's correct. I see why the design is driving sequestration, because it worked awesome for Bitcoin.
That's the word from the tweet, right? That is the word from the tweet. Yes.
Sequestering or sequestration. Yeah, I don't use that word very often, so that's like the third time it's ever come out of my mouth.
Sequestered.
Sequestered. Right. That just means you sort of stuff it in a vault somewhere and don't touch it. Right.
Yeah. Right. So yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and I think from like a subnet owner perspective, like the world is your universe, right? Like the world is your oyster. Like if you look at what Morgan, the Hippias team, have done with substrate contracts, like that is a direct and thoughtful move to give more programmability to the underlying, and that's been missing for a really long time. It's exciting to see that come out in terms of like substrate smart contracts and the flexibility that gives people to be creative around what they're doing with alpha or whatever it might be on their network, like sub-alpha tokens or wherever human beings' brains go in terms of making other incentive mechanisms, which there'll be many more of. I think that's really exciting. The ability for a subnet owner to have more flexibility in terms of the way they program their incentives on the asset level, I think is very interesting. There's a group of people that would want you to do that in the incentive model for the subnet, but there is no right way to do anything. There's only creativity.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So how long? So you mentioned you've been around for 3 years or so. Did you? And I think you raised money at one point from DCG, Digital Currency Group. So Silbert,
big old Barry,
Big Barry. Yeah. So
the people's favorite.
Yeah. No, I love Barry. I think Barry's great.
I do as well. As well.
So, but tell me. So you guys have been around for like I think 3 years. How tell me a little bit about your history and when you raised money, who you raised it from, and how big are you now? It looks like you got a big team because there's a lot of stuff here. So I'm guessing there's 10 people or something behind this.
Yeah, and we are the Borg officially. Like we are very much augmented by AI, which, if used in the right way, just gives you the most insane velocity. If you're a good architect, like it won't make you an amazing artist if you're not a good planner or a critical thinker. But if you are and you've got good architecting skills, it will just be a massive superpower. Having your intern is really great. So we're a team of 9 engineers, 2 on the marketing and business development side. We started 3 years ago with we've been through many pivots, man. Like pivots make you successful, changes make you successful, eating humble pie makes you successful, realizing what your mistakes are and being honest about them makes you successful. And we've started trying to solve a lot of problems in the Web3 space that look like big problems to solve, and ultimately they don't stick. So the first point we started at was, we're going to unlock both off-chain and on-chain data to provide an on-chain credit score so as people can do uncollateralized lending. Then FTX happens and all lending blows up.
Yeah.
So business model vaporized, overnight. So this is where we started. We raised money from a really big institutional fund called Golden Tree. They're a $50 billion fund out of New York, specializing in credit and distressed assets. They're one of our big anchor investors. Shout out to Joe, who's just span off from Republic now into his own fund. And they've just done incredibly well over the last 3 years and a great supporter. So we raised a pre-seed, a seed round, and then we did a token sale last year under our other asset through CoinList. And throughout the last 3 years, started with this on-chain credit idea, then realized that we could use the same kind of scraping and data pipelines to expand into data for AI. And over the last 2 years have navigated our way through what is a very busy space with data scraping to find our way to where we are today, which is focusing on the use of data for financial markets, specifically financial markets in crypto right now. You can go on to Gopher Trader today and you can look at NVIDIA stock and you can analyze NVIDIA stock. You can't place a trade because we're not connected to Robinhood or anything like that, but you can still NVIDIA, you can look at gold prices, and we have access to all those data feeds. So we've learned that generalizing for data didn't work for us. It's a very commoditized space. Specializing for data now really is working for us and solving a very, very key pain point for our customers and users, which is how the bloody hell do you, when there's so much fucking noise out there and you're constantly bombarded with stuff every single day, how can you condense 8 hours of assimilating that information into 5 minutes or 3 minutes efficiently and effectively in a way where you trust the data? And focusing that on financial services, and then focusing even more on crypto assets and what's happening in the crypto space, which is arguably the busiest, noisiest 24/7 market you'll ever be faced with. And if you spend more than one cycle in it, getting like insomnia and thinking about it as a trader, like it will either send you insane and you'll leave, or you'll somehow figure out a way past it. So like that's the pain we're solving for a lot of people. It's like, you know, how can you do this in a way where you don't lose your mind, have an edge, and as we're now saying, give alpha for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been around since 2013 as well. So, you know, as you can see, all the Bitcoin books that were written. I can't see
the gray hair.
Yeah. No hair. So, yeah, it's a thing, right? So.
Inverse.
Yeah. Okay, well, super cool. I think I'm sort of out of questions. Is there anything I should have covered that I didn't ask?
Oh, man. No, just I think, like, you know, there's a whole universe of subnets out there that we haven't spent enough time internally BDing. As you can see, the team is relatively skewed, like it's heavily engineering. Just, you know, if you're interested in using the product, want to contribute, want to be a miner, find your way into our Discord. You can either find that on the BitTensor Discord or directly to our one as well, or through X. And we are just a bunch of very friendly engineers that are building something we think has got real meaning and trying to impact a lot of people and generate and build a massive company. We're not building a small company, we're building a massive, I keep calling it entity because we're in Web3, not company. This is an entity.
Yeah.
And thrilled to have you all on board. And I don't think we need to, I'm sure I've missed a ton of things.
Let me actually, there is one last question I want to ask you, because I think this is an interesting point, especially for people outside of BitTensor that sometimes watch these shows to learn about BitTensor. When you decided that you were going to do data scraping, you had a choice. You could have just hired and built it yourself in-house, but you decided to go with building a subnet. And I think the reason why is because, holy shit, you have 256 people who will bust their ass mining for free, you know, and the chain pays them, right? So it's an incredibly more efficient way. You get 256 temp workers, basically, right, for free. Yeah. Like, is that basically the dynamic here? Is that correct?
And to me, it is. To me, this is both the dichotomy and the contradiction of BitTensor sometimes, which is you can be massively capital efficient as a subnet, or you could be. I think that changes slightly with detail. And it gives you a way of, again, writing an incentive mechanism through which you provide the best outcome for your product at a lot of times at a much lower cost. So your cost basis for your infrastructure and what you would otherwise be paying AWS or a bunch of other services can be massively reduced. But that relies on the chain funding you. And there comes the kind of, I think, sometimes the contradiction, which is, you know, I do think the amazing thing about BitTensor is it gives you that opportunity. But that also is counter to this notion of like keeping more alpha and more tau locked. So I think there's like a tension there between both. And certainly for us, we would be spending an insane amount of money on infrastructure. And have had a much harder time getting off the start line than what we have now, and that is just a massive value add. And it's still the same. Like, I think there's still ways in which you can achieve the right outcome through this like belief system, but you're only given a certain length of time to prove it out, right? Like,
yeah,
you're only as valuable as the belief is there or the revenue is there to support the belief. It's the same with any idea, any startup, and I really love that about the BitTensor ecosystem is it's free and open innovation. And then a Darwinian system for like who survives and who wins, and sometimes that's not fair, but like that's the way it is.
That's life.
That is life.
Circle of life.
Yes. I love it. So yeah, I mean, it's an amazing place to come and build, and you'll be building with one of the richest, smartest groups of people in the entire Web3 space, which is super cool.
Yeah, super cool. Well, Brendan, thank you so much for coming on. Very much
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Incredibly informative. So that's it, everyone. My name is Mark Jeffrey. This has been Hash Rate. We'll see you all next time.